Last week in Michigan politics, Michigan's presidential primary is now less than 1 month away. We break down what you need to know and what's different about this election. Plus, President Biden making a trip to Michigan to tout a new endorsement from a powerful group, even as another key group declines to meet with his campaign. And a number of the 15 defendants accused of acting as fake electors in Michigan's 2020 presidential election were back in court this week. We have all the updates on those cases. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. Thanks for joining us. President Joe Biden made his way to Michigan this week after clinching a key high-profile endorsement. Biden celebrated his recent endorsement from the United Auto Workers. He met on Thursday with UAW workers while in southeast Michigan. UAW President Shawn Fain announced the endorsement on Wednesday, saying, quote, "If our endorsements must be earned, Joe Biden has earned it." Biden had made headlines after he joined a UAW picket line in Michigan during their nationwide strike last year. And this comes just about a week after Arab American leaders in Ann Arbor declined to meet with the president's campaign staff over frustration with the president's handling of the Israel-Hamas war. In a state with one of the largest Arab American populations, this is a key group of voters for President Biden when he carried the state in 2020. But now many are expressing anger over what they've seen as a genocide against Palestinians, in their view, without enough pushback from the Biden administration. Some even going as far as to say they will not give their support to the president this time around.
I just want to say to Mr. Biden that you are absolutely not welcome in Michigan. Our trust bestowed upon you through our votes has been shattered as we feel deceived and robbed of our hard-earned money which you dedicated towards Israel, unleashing havoc on innocent lives.
And the presidential primary is this month in Michigan, and for the first time ever, Michigan is offering early in-person voting to all voters. But the process might look different depending on where you live.
This is the first year that we're implementing early voting.
And in some ways, it's been a race for county clerks like Lisa Posthumous-Lyons to get it ready for Michigan's upcoming presidential primary, following the passage of a constitutional amendment that now requires that voters have access to in-person early voting.
That's another provision that voters approved in 2022 as part of Proposal 2.
With it being the first time for many areas, early voting won't necessarily look the same for everyone. While certain requirements were put in place, including a minimum of 9 days for early in-person voting for all polling locations, some aspects of how counties go about it will be up to them. In Kent County, it will be each local jurisdiction that controls its polling places.
We feel like it was important not to confuse voters in terms of where they should be voting, but the local township or that city is what the voters know. So we think that's where the voters should go.
But in other places like Ottawa County, towns and cities have agreed on a singular plan, with several polling places that voters countywide will use for early voting. Also meant to do what clerks feel will help voters through this brand new system.
This whole early voting process is new, but it's also about convenience. It's about the ability for someone to be able to cast their vote early. If they're, we live busy lives nowadays. There's a lot of stuff going on, but voting is so critical and important to our process. And expanding the options that voters have to participate is a win-win.
There's so many changes that are underway here in this election. We want voters to be educated. We want to make them aware of what these changes are. We want them to, we don't want them to be caught off guard or confused by how they are able to vote and where they should go.
To find out exactly what early voting will look like in your area, you can contact your local clerk's office.
And early voting won't be the only way this election differs from others. 13 on Your Side's Chris Flezar takes a closer look at what else you need to know before you go to the polls.
Michiganders passed a constitutional amendment in 2022 expanding early voting in Michigan. The presidential primary is the first time communities must offer it to voters. That said, it really doesn't affect the primary process itself, but there are things you do need to know before you go to vote. First, because it is a presidential primary, state law requires you to choose either a Democratic or Republican ballot. This does not mean you are registering for that party. It simply allows clerks the opportunity to give you the right ballot. This year, there will be several candidates for president on each ballot, 3 Democrats and 7 Republicans. The candidate names will still be listed even if they have suspended their campaign. Finally, if you have signed up for a permanent absentee ballot in the past, you must return a party preference form before the ballot will be sent to you.
They've been going out for a couple weeks now, but that's kind of on hold for those voters who have not sent in their ballot selection form. So it's really important that voters are aware of this provision in the law, especially those voters on the permanent absentee list that are automatically receiving ballots.
If an absentee voter has not sent back their party preference form, their local clerk's office will reach out via text, email, or through the mail. The Kent County Clerk wants people to know this is not a scam. It's just a way for them to let you know what's going on and give you an opportunity to cast your ballot. Also, if you don't send your preference form back in advance, voters still have an opportunity to go to the polls on Election Day and cast your ballot in person.
And primaries were held this week as part of a special elections process to fill 2 open seats in the Michigan House. In the race for the 13th district, Democrat My Song and Republican Ronald Singer won their primaries and will go head-to-head for the seat in the spring. And in the 25th district, Democrat Peter Herzberg and Republican Josh Powell will advance in their race. Special general elections to determine who will hold those seats are set for April. Until then, the Michigan House will remain at a tie of 54 Democrats to 54 Republicans. And here in Grand Rapids, State Representative Rachel Hood has announced she will not seek re-election. In a statement sent out this week, she says it's time to prioritize her family. Hood has represented parts of Grand Rapids and surrounding townships since she was first elected into the Michigan House in 2018. Hood says she will return to work in the private sector after rounding out her term on December 31st. Also not seeking re-election, Ottawa County Sheriff Steve Kemper. He announced he will retire this year after being with the sheriff's office for the past 35 years, the last 7 as the elected county sheriff. Kemper's law enforcement career has spanned more than 44 years, and he says he looks forward to spending more time with his family. And from education to more affordable housing, Governor Gretchen Whitmer touched on many topics in her State of the State address last week. One proposal that's gotten a lot of people's attention was her push to make community college free for qualifying high school graduates. This free community college proposal would apply to all high school graduates who meet certain requirements and would build off a program that's already in place. Those requirements include the graduate living in Michigan for at least a year. The student would be required to earn an associate's degree within 3 years. Now, the proposal expands on the state's current Michigan Reconnect program that provides tuition-free community college for certain students. Now, while the age threshold for that program is usually 25, lawmakers temporarily lowered it to 21. This proposal would do away with that age requirement altogether. The president of Grand Rapids Community College said he sees this as a positive step.
This helps remove that barrier to the access piece, but also helps students complete because they don't have to worry about the additional burden of paying college tuition while also paying for rent and cars and childcare and utilities and food, which all have gone up significantly in the past few years.
And some state Republicans, however, were skeptical of what they viewed as more plans to inflate state spending and believed the speech from Governor Whitmer fell short. But with an evenly split state house right now, anything that the governor hopes to get through to her desk within the first few months of this critical election year needs to have bipartisan support. And the state is exploring changes to how our roads, bridges, and public transit systems are funded. And the switch could impact how much you pay at the pump. The state is looking for input from the public through an online survey. Right now, roads are funded through a combination of federal, state, and local funds, half from the gas tax and the other half from vehicle registration fees. On average, drivers pay about $400 a year to maintain our roads. But according to MDOT, those who drive older, less fuel-efficient vehicles end up paying more money. This study is considering what's known as a road usage charge. Instead of paying the gas tax, you would pay a few cents for each mile you drive. We have information on how to participate in that survey right now on 13onyourside.com. And an update on the 15 people accused of participating in a fake Elector scheme in Michigan. Attorney General Dana Nessel says the group was brainwashed into believing former President Donald Trump won the 2020 election. Investigators say the group, which includes Wyoming Mayor Kent Vanderwood, met following the election and signed a document falsely stating they were the state's duly elected and qualified electors. Earlier this week, 8 of the 15 charged appeared in court and learned they will have a hearing in April, while the others will be in court next month. The judge said that due to the complexity and volume of evidence in the case, they have to split up the hearings.
I'm not going to bind the court's time up so that we can try. We're already inundated with requests for transcripts, and I can already tell you that this one is something that has to be farmed out to someone to assist us because of the volume of court time that we spent. I'm not going to hold this case open any longer.
Each of the 15 faces 8 criminal charges, including multiple counts of forgery. Owners of the Palisades nuclear power plant are hoping to bring it back online. The plant in Van Buren County closed in 2022 and was sold a month later. The new owners are asking for $1.5 billion loan from the U.S. Department of Energy. The loans are part of a $6 billion project by the Biden administration to rescue nuclear power plants across the country. If they receive the loan, Palisades could reopen by the end of 2025. And now to gun violence in our community. State leaders and community activists this week wrapped up a 2-day Michigan Gun Violence Prevention Summit to discuss both the causes of gun violence and also where communities go from here. 13 on your side's Micah Cho has the story.
There's so much more to be done so that the residents of the state of Michigan can feel safe and protected in their homes.
In its first year, the Michigan Gun Violence Prevention Summit sought not only to address the issue of gun violence, but the factors that go into the crimes being committed, like community violence and mass shootings. Attorney General Dana Nessel spoke on Tuesday, touting the state's new firearm laws that will go into effect in February.
Michigan will begin implementing universal background checks for the purchase of all firearms, ensuring that those who are prohibited from owning a gun under the law are not flying under the radar due to poor oversight.
She also talked about Michigan's new safe storage laws that will increase the penalty for adults if a minor is able to get a hold of an unsecured firearm, and adds a 15-year felony if a minor uses that gun to kill another person. Jennifer Crumbly is currently standing trial for manslaughter after her son Ethan Crumbly killed 4 students at Oxford High School. Former Oxford High School teacher Lauren Jasinski moderated a more than an hour-long conversation on young people impacted and activism against gun violence.
Access to mental health was a huge issue for my staff immediately following the shooting at our school because it created such an incredible need in a very short amount of time for a lot of people.
As a student at Michigan State University, Maya Manuel spoke on her experience during and after the shooting on campus last year.
When the shooting at MSU happened on February 13th, it kind of pulled me into a position where I felt, I'm tired. My friends are tired. We've seen people lost. Our community keeps grieving continuously, and we need real, tangible, life-saving change.
So the work that we're doing gives me hope to know that there is a better side that we're working towards. There is hope on the other side.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. We'll see you next week.